We start with the Vice President, Joe Biden, who sat down with us for an interview earlier this week in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Well, good morning, Mr. Vice President, and welcome to Face the Nation. We did some checking. This is your third appearance as Vice President, your 55th appearance on Face the Nation. That's more than any other Democrat. You still haven't caught up with John McCain, who is the leader right now. Well, let's get right to it.
Yes.
You really laid into Governor Romney this week. You said he was consistently wrong about everything. Does this mean that you and the president have decided that Mitt Romney is the nominee, that he's who you're going to be facing come fall?
Bob, I can never figure out who the Democratic nominee is going to be in a primary. That's not the, he seems like the front runner, but what he's saying is not fundamentally different than Santorum is saying.
But you'd be really surprised if he was not the nominee, right?
Well, yeah, I guess I would, but you know, look, I really, it's really amazing. I'm not being facetious. I've been surprised by this whole Republican primary process.
Why do you think he's had such a hard time closing the deal?
I really don't know, Bob. I mean, look, this is not your father's Republican Party. This is a different party than I'm used to. And I've been around for a while, both in the House and the Senate. It's a different party. And my guess is the electorate is, the Republican electorate is different than it's been the last 10, 12 years. And so, you know, that's the change that I'm most fascinated with watching is how much has it changed? How far right has it gone? Or how anti-government has it become? I mean, it's just a different, it seems there's almost a different language.
It is very clear how Mitt Romney, if he is the nominee, is going to try to frame this election. He's going to try to make it a referendum on Barack Obama. Here's what he's been saying.
People are unhappy with the results that they've seen so far under this president. Gasoline prices have doubled. The deficit is massively larger. The president said he was going to cut it in half. He's doubled it. The national debt. The president, by the end of his 4 years, will have put in almost as much debt on this country as all the prior presidents combined. And of course, you have 24 million people out of work or underemployed. And so this presidency has been a failure. And at the center piece of this failure is this piece of legislation back here, Obamacare.
So what's your take on that?
I think that I think Governor Romney's a little out of touch. Look, you know, everything that he said the American people don't think the policies have worked. Romney argued about not an exact quote, but let Detroit go bankrupt. Wasn't a very popular action the president took. Now they're hiring people, you know, hundreds of thousands of new people instead of losing 400,000 jobs. General Motors is the largest corporation in the world again, 24 straight months of economic growth. Americans going back to work, the unemployment rate dropping by 1%. Now, I understand the Republicans talking about Obamacare. I get that. They've been against it from the beginning. But, you know, you go out there and take a look, Bob. Everywhere I go in the country, there's millions of people out there that are benefiting now. There are those people with chronic diseases like cancer. You don't have to worry about getting a phone call saying you're cut off, your insurance has run out. There are tens of thousands, several million kids who are on their parents' insurance policy. They wouldn't be there before. What is the Romney answer? There's nothing. All they argue is cut, get rid of that. Get rid of that. I just think that, look, this is about the middle class. And what affects middle class people? Their jobs, being able to own a home, being able to live in a safe neighborhood, being able to send their kid to college. It's about their dignity. This is about the middle class. And none of what he's offering does anything. It's just return to the old policies.
I take your points. But the fact is, unemployment did go up after the president took office, and so did gas prices.
Gas prices. Look, we're pumping 650,000 barrels of oil a day more than we did when we took office. There are more oil rigs and gas rigs running in the United States today than all the rest of the world combined. We are importing less foreign oil than we did the last time was this low as 16 years ago. And these guys, what are they offering? $2.50 gas. I think at least one of them is offering that. That's what's going to happen. And what's their policy? Continue a $4 billion tax cut for the oil companies? Drill more? Where are they going to drill more now that can produce something now? And they're going out there and they're emasculating all the efforts to deal with renewable energy. And so they have no policy.
Let me go back to health care. Governor Romney continues to say that the centerpiece of President Obama's failure is health care. We are seeing these arguments in the Supreme Court this week. What do you think the impact would be if the court decides to throw this thing out, or if it just decides to throw out the part about the mandate that you have to buy insurance?
Well, first, I think we should bring the temperature down. You and I have watched the Supreme Court for a lot of years. No one's made any money betting an outcome of cases based on the oral arguments and the questions asked. We think the mandate and the law is constitutional, and we think the court will rule that way. And what this is really about is the Republican alternative, which is what? They are going to continue, no matter what the Supreme Court does, to go after trying to eliminate or strangle this law. And in the meantime, all those folks I mentioned before, all those folks that are benefiting now, all those people are about to benefit as more kicks in 2014, they're in real trouble. This is about them. And I don't know what is the alternative these guys are offering. The Ryan plan to further go in there and take on Medicare and so, I mean, I don't get their position.
Well, what would happen, though? I mean, if this whole thing was thrown out and you had to start over?
I'm not going to speculate about something I don't believe will happen. I don't believe it will happen. And so I just think we should focus on what is the law doing for people now and what would happen if, in fact, the Republicans were able to repeal it.
You called Mitt Romney, you really called him out the other day for saying the president was out of touch. Here's what you said. I want to play a little of what you said.
Governor Romney's called the President of the United States out of touch. That's a quote, out of touch, for encouraging young people to try to get manufacturing jobs. Out of touch? Romney? I mean, pretty remarkable. Pretty remarkable. As an old friend of mine says, that's chutzpah.
What did you mean by that?
When you have, I can't remember a presidential candidate in the recent past who seems not to understand by what he says what ordinary middle-class people are thinking about and are concerned about. Whether it's his comment of saying, well, we ought to just let the foreclosures just hit bottom, just let them go. I don't know whether he understands that there are millions there's 12 million people out there paying their mortgage payments. They've done it on time, and all we want to do is give them a chance to refinance at a lower rate. And say, no, that's not a good idea. We talk about kids going to college and being able to get an opportunity to get a tax break to send your kid to college, or increasing the number of kids with Pell Grants from 6 to 9 million. Here's what I don't think Governor Romney seems to understand. It's not just about the kid that doesn't get to go to college because we're not willing to help him. It's about that parent. That proud parent looks at his kid and knows there's nothing I can do to help this kid. We're stripping people of their dignity. It's not just a kid who doesn't go. It's the family. I don't know that he understands that there are people like my dad who felt ashamed that he wasn't able to borrow the money and apologizing to me. The worst thing in the world for a parent is to know they can't help their child, whether they're sick because they can't get insurance for them because they have a pre-existing condition, or they can't help them get to college. And that's the part that seems to me to be missing. I don't think they understand that piece of it. It's about dignity. These things are about people's dignity.
Are you enjoying this Republican primary? I know you said one day, God love them, I hope they have another 20 debates.
Well, look, I find it, look, the one thing Bob, and by the way, remind myself of my grandfather's admonition. He said, Joey, any team can beat any other team in any given day. So this is not because I'm so sure that we're going to win. But what I do find is, of all the times I've run for office, Bob, this is the first time the Republicans aren't hiding the ball. They're saying exactly what they think. They're not talking about compassionate conservatism. They're not talking about the need for health care in America, but we have a different way. They're not talking about public education being the key to economic growth and stability in the country. They're just saying straight up what they believe. And so in that sense, I think this is going to be an incredibly stark choice the American people are going to have, not just on the economy, but on social policy as well as educational policy. I think across the board, they've been very straightforward about where they are. And so in that sense, God love them. They're not hiding the ball. They're just saying exactly what they believe.
Let me ask you about we now know about the president's now famous unguarded moment before the microphone when he told the Russian president, look, I'll have more flexibility after the election to deal with missile defenses and so forth. Governor Romney really hit him hard on that. He said it was alarming. He said, what else is he going to be flexible about? What do you make of all that?
Speaking of flexible, Governor Romney's a pretty flexible guy in his positions. But look, and by the way, I know a little bit about unguarded moments with microphones. But look, here's the president just stated the obvious. The idea that in this election year, we're going to be able to deal with an agreement with the Russians on further reducing our nuclear arsenals in the environment that we have in the United States Congress now is difficult. And what the president was doing is stating the obvious, that it's going to be difficult. We're not going to have the flexibility to sit down and talk with people in this Congress that are going to be able to listen and be able to work with us, probably between now and Election Day. So, and the second thing is, Governor Romney's answer, I thought, was incredibly revealing. He acts like he thinks the Cold War is still on. Russia is still our major adversary. I don't know where he's been. I mean, we have disagreements with Russia, but they're united with us on Iran. The only way we're getting, one of only two ways we're getting material into Afghanistan to our troops is through Russia. They are working closely with us. They've just said to Europe, if there is an oil shutdown in any way in the Gulf, they'll consider increasing oil supplies to Europe. This is not 1956.
You know, but doesn't it play to the Republican allegations? Because I hear this from conservatives all the time. If you don't like Barack Obama now, wait till he gets reelected, because if he's free to do whatever he wants to do, he's going to raise our taxes, he's going to put in gun control, he's going to do everything from, you know, authorize gay marriage to whatever, just once he gets past that election.
Well, look, every opportunity they get to try to seed that argument, they do. So I agree with you that anything that is said that allows them even the patina of saying that's what he's doing, they use it. But what I think is most revealing about it is the governor's response. The governor talking about this hurts Israel. He either hasn't been informed yet or doesn't know that this missile defense system we put in, and I was responsible, as you remember, for going to Europe and selling the new system, which better protects them, also better protects Israel in terms of the early warning capability. I mean, he just seems to be uninformed or stuck in a Cold War mentality. So I think what the exchange did, it exposes how little the governor knows about foreign policy.